What we're going to do next, guys, is we're going to have a chance for you to ask a few questions, a few clarifying questions, and then Marcia's going to facilitate some small group discussions. But one of the things, the thing about the title of this session, it was work and, Katherine talked about work from a sponsorship perspective. And I know sponsorship works. I had a sponsor that died in my career for years in the bank. So, sponsorship is, and then wealth is one of the key ways that having your own business, a successful business is one of the key ways to create wealth in this country. Women have we have a lot of small businesses. Small business engine is what's going to get us out of this ditch we're in. And so Chia-Li talked about small business ownership and the navigating the waters of entrepreneurs. I learned a ton from Betty. Not that she's in my office, but I do provide a lot of support. But I learned a ton from her. And ladies, we have the voice in everything that we do and I believe in every way. We really got to do some work on this political piece. So what I want to do now is ask, are there any questions, not statements, questions that you have for any of our speakers that you want to ask them? Yes, please stand up so we can hear you. If there's a microphone,
just talk a little
talk loud.
Okay, my question is for Dave. With women who are interested in running for office, I think one of the things that can be so daunting is the campaign itself and how ugly that can sometimes be. What encouragement would you give to someone who is considering that, who would be considering running for office?
I would encourage a woman who wants to run for political office to, again, look for those organizations that train women in campaigning and fundraising. I would encourage a woman who wants to run for political office to look for a role model, to look for support from another woman who is currently in the elected office that you may aspire to. And I've seen that work for a lot of candidates, female candidates. So please do it.
What are the questions? On any of the topics that we talked about? Yes, please stand.
I have a couple of questions that I'd like to direct my first one to Katherine. What's in it for sponsors?
In organizations, often you get credit for developing proteges. We give Catalyst Award to organizations that have very innovative initiatives that progress women. And very sophisticated companies tend to understand that to run well, they need to leverage their talent well. And what's refreshing is that as we look at a lot of our award winners, we see that within the company, there's a culture of development. And that means that, again, if you are willing to be a sponsor and willing to grow talents, especially in diverse populations, if your company is progressive, then you certainly will get credit for doing that. Another thing, if you sponsor someone who's of a different generation, it can be a reciprocal relationship where there's kind of like a mentor-up, where you as a sponsor can actually learn from your protege. So just a couple of reasons.
And I'm going to add to that. I'm not part of the speakers, but I have a personal experience with that. My sponsor that I didn't even know that existed was a white man named Sam Bass, and I never worked for him until later. But what was in it for him was his appreciation for diversity and also developing talent. And after watching my career through maybe 4 or 5 jobs, then he asked me to come work for him. And so he gained a very loyal, hardworking person that went on to do other development. So you never know, and sponsors do not have to look like you. Same gender, same ethnicity, but he gained a lot from that. So, and there was another question here first, and then we'll come back. Someone here? I can't hear you. What was your question?
Well, it was answered about the political arena. Basically, I just have a question as being never having political experience. Where do you actually start off? Would it be advisable to start off with one of the local boards here and gain a knowledge of what's going on in the political arena, as opposed to just going and say, I want to apply for, maybe precinct chair?
Right. What I hear you saying is start at the grassroots level, right? Precinct committees, boards, and then as you develop a broader network, then think about running for political office. Is that?
Yes.
Do I understand you correctly?
Yes, because I'm in that population where I'm over 45 and my children are grown, and I do, the hard rock reunion, 50s, ready to get back to the community. So that's basically, what I'm looking for. Where do I begin? Never, ever having experience in the political arena, but I do want to advocate for things going on locally in the community as well as at the state.
Are you familiar with the organization Women in Public Service?
I have inquired about the Women's Council. I haven't gotten any response. I have a lot of literature that I picked up today here at the conference. So one was the one 2012. So I do have a lot of interesting information that I'm going to look into and see where I can begin.
I would encourage you to talk to the blonde on your road, who's the director of the Women's Summit, and is putting together a program on women on boards, how to get appointed to boards and commissions.
But this specifically, I'm very health-oriented. Okay. All right.
What I'm going to suggest is that the two of you talk afterwards, just to keep, because we want to have some interactive dialogue time as well, and I want to hear a few more clarifying questions before we break out. Robin, and then I'll come to you again.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to just find out a little bit more about, if you could speak to growing value in your business. What are some of the key things that we need to be focusing on and growing equity in our firms?
Yeah, they are generally 4 things investors or buyers are looking for from small business. And I don't have the list with me, but I'll briefly go through it with you. The very first thing that you want to look for are actually 3 things, not 4 things. The very first thing that you want to look for is, because buyers and investors are looking for what return on their investments. So you wanted to make sure that there's a way that you can show the return on investment by showing how to diversify your client base, how to diversify your product base. And the other things that you wanted to show for is how can you ensure that you can decrease the risk in your business. So you have to demonstrate both return on investment as well as the risk. And sometimes you have to make the hard decision of if that particular client or that particular product line is not making profitable work for you, you got to cut them loose. You've got to be able to make that decision. So the 3 things are return on investment, decrease risk, and decrease your investment capital, which is more of cutting loose of those is not profitable product customers.
Question here that I'm over here.
Hi.
I'll come to you next.
Okay. I'm Sadie again. This question is for Chia-Li. You discussed the market makers and developing the whole market.
Yes.
Can you give an anecdote? Your definition was clear, and I wrote it down to copious notes. But can you give an anecdote, maybe an example of what a market maker relationship would look like? Or
Sure. Are you in business currently?
I'm not.
You're not. Okay.
But
So who is in the business currently? Okay. Can someone volunteer to tell me your business so I can give you an example of market makers?
Sure.
Would you mind? Yeah.
I'm in a technology startup.
Okay, so who is your ideal client profile?
Smart Latinas.
Small, okay, so small Latina companies, is that right?
No, Latina women.
Latina women,
Women,
okay.
professional women.
Okay, great. Okay, so her service is technology, and she specifically provides for Latina women businesses. So her natural choice, I hope that I said that correctly.
That's fine.
So her natural choice of market makers or strategic partnerships would be anything to do with Latino women associations, professional associations, or even CPAs that serves that particular demographics, because CPAs generally have hundreds and hundreds of business owners working with them. So that type of relationship is a definition of market makers. However, market makers it takes time to develop. You cannot just walk into, let's say, a CPA's office that do servicing the Latino community and say, hey, I want to work with you and give me your clients. It doesn't work that way. So it does take some time to develop.
Okay, one last question, and then Marcia's going to facilitate some. You'll have a chance to talk more, all of you. Young lady right there with the gray jacket.
She actually asked the same question I had.
Oh, she did? Okay.
Big mind.
Well, okay, well, you can do that, and then Marcia's going to take over. Go ahead.
I was just curious. I have 2 young daughters, and so I think a lot about how do I encourage them to do the things that all 3 of you spoke about today. And so I was just curious to know if you had any advice around how parents can think about preparing their children for some of the work that you talked about.
I mean, I can talk a little bit about business, and we do really like it when parents can make the norms of their family as gender stereotype-free as possible. For example, encouraging girls to pursue stereotypically masculine subjects like math, like the whole STEM, the science, technology, engineering, math. Those are very, very good skills for all children to develop. And as much as possible, let girls be active in volunteer organizations where they can hold leadership positions, and as they get into high school, even doing organizations that have to do with developing business skills. And there are clubs and organizations that focus on developing entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and I think it's brief. Yes.
For my daughter, for example, last year she got inducted into the Beta Club. And so the very first thing I asked her to do was, have you considering running the club? And this is what she said to me. She said, oh, Mom, I'm not that smart. But I said to her, I'm sure you can be a secretary and then move up accordingly. So I think encouraging your daughters to be participating, not just participating, but take a leadership role makes a huge difference.
I agree.
Okay, we've heard a lot today throughout the whole conference from these women on the panel. We've heard about how empowered we are. I think we have felt very empowered. Now we're talking about some of the gaps, whether it's in advancement in our careers, in our political lives, who runs the country, who runs the corporation, and the small business. So when I hear that, I'm like, okay, but we're so empowered. How does this balance out? So we're looking at this group of women, and we're saying that, all right, every action we take can make a difference. So what we want to do now, in the limited time we have, is we want to split you into groups. And we're not doing this in a fancy way. Turn around, talk with the women close to you. If you turn around and every woman looks just like you, move, so we can get some diversity. But looking out here, I don't think that's going to be the case. But what we want to do is just have you talk about what you've heard, certainly at this session, but throughout the day, because we are powerful and we have huge potential. And you look at the room, we talk about our daughters, we can really make a difference, whether it's something large or something small. So that's what we want you to talk about. What are you going to do about it? We can't just keep waiting for others to do. So what I want you to do is move into these groups and just have this conversation. What can you do to close the gap? And we may, a woman back here sounded like she might be interested in running for something. Awesome. Maybe her group can give her some ideas. Maybe that becomes the foundation of a new candidate for us. It can be something large, something small, but please just connect with each other and just share some ideas. And then what help do you need from others? If you put an idea out there, maybe someone's going to jump on it and say, I'd like to work with you on that. So we're just going to take, how much time, Gwen? 15 minutes. So don't spend 10 moving around and looking at everybody's shoes and jewelry. Just do it. And then we're going to have different people report out and just share some ideas. Report out first.
The one thing I was just going to have elections coming up here in Charlotte for the school board, and that's coming up fairly soon. So really, I was just reflecting on my experience of having 2 young children in the school system. And when I show up to the PTA meetings, I see women there. I see moms there. Those are the people that really know what's going on with the school. And the decisions that are made at the school board level are also impacting families and moms and children and dads. But, I don't know that I always see a lot of those moms' faces showing up on the school board itself. So just taking a look at who's on your school board, who's making those decisions that impact your family and your children, and making sure that those people represent you. I'm sure I'm thinking of we actually discussed two issues basically around career, but I'm actually starting a new job on Monday. And so one of the things that really appealed to me was the sponsorship discussion and how do I manage that. But what we really ended up talking about was the challenge.
In this supercharged, superpowered group here in the front, we came up with a couple of different ideas. The very first thing I wrote down, there was a quote, was "Women step forward." I believe you said that. And that was in regards to, how do you get out there to get support from, from other women, from other organizations. And I think that summarized it. Women step forward, just step out there. Connect with organizations, getting appointed, visit your precincts, get the visibility so that people don't think that you're not interested or disinterested, and connect with people statewide. Also, women's political office. I don't know what that. Okay, volunteer, become visible. So the volunteering and getting in the community and getting out there and getting on the boards, that's a huge part of, if you're going to run for office, becoming elected, is to have that visibility, or they'll believe that you're not interested. Research on the way women vote. Oh, okay, this was actually a very good point, to do research on the way Republican women vote versus the way Democrat men vote. And we brought up that point to talk about just the continuity between women's issues across, even across political spectrums, that we still have the same issues that we all deal with and can identify with. And then lastly, gaining support across, all races, ethnicities, and of course, parties.
And 5 of the women sitting here. We talked about our very different career paths. Continuing on and building community relationships was very important in her career, at least in the Latino community. It's also important in my career. Building community relationships is part of my job inside the prison, trying to get people to come in and help the guys who are going to be released. Controlling emotions and being diplomatic was brought up in our group. It's also important to me. I sometimes have a difficult time controlling my emotions.
A little louder.
A little louder, okay. Obtaining sponsorship and sponsoring other women. I know that in the prison system we have a sponsored program, but it's hard to find female sponsors because there are just no females. And one solution to that was brought to the table was find a male who's willing to do it, grab on and follow their lead. Work with what you have and not giving up.
She did talk about becoming strategically involved in the political arena in the areas of finance and budget, and that's where we as women often tend to dance around those areas. But so that was a lot of information. So I think it kind of echoed on what you said about going into our purses and being able to get out there and finance those who are going to be our future leaders.
It's key, 2 of us in the education arena. Also talking about it from the corporate side, as far as parents too that have to think about children in schools as they move here. But both of us being
actually offering on December 9th. In conjunction with the North Carolina Center for Women in Public Policy, we're hosting a Women on Board conference workshop on December 9th at the UNC Charlotte Center C building. If you're interested, please see me out in the session, and I'm happy to hand off my card.
Can you repeat it again?
Yes, we are co-hosting a Women on Board workshop on December 9th, Friday, December 9th, at the UNC Charlotte Uptown campus.
What are the organizations?
It's the Women's Summit at UNC Charlotte.